If you guys enjoy what I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free and easy to do. Before we get started with today's video, I have an announcement to make. After years of telling other people's stories, I finally released one of my own. My novel Eternal Reign is available now in both ebook and paperback format for those of you who are like me and prefer to collect physical media. You can grab a copy right now on Amazon through the link in the description of this video. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. From the moment time began, the armies of heaven and hell have been fighting. The war caught the attention of a being known as the Charred Council, whose primary goal was keeping things balanced. It believed that any group or individual running around with unchecked power would be a threat to the order of the universe itself, and it would do whatever it took to keep the universe moving in the proper direction. Eventually, the council made heaven and hell both agree to obey its laws, mainly because the council had some people who they could send out to deal with anyone who upset the balance. Those people were the four horsemen: war, fury, strife, and death. Just by their names alone, it would be safe to say that nobody wanted any of them to be sent after them, especially not all four of them at once, so everybody started to act right. Out of the chaos of the fighting between angel and demon, humans started to appear, and even though they were weak compared to the other races, the council said that they would be extremely important to the balance, so the third kingdom, the kingdom of man, was formed. The council made heaven and hell form a pact that was bound by 7 seals. Those seals would keep the battle between the kingdoms from starting back up until the humans had enough time to get strong enough to compete. Then the seals would finally be broken, and the 3 kingdoms would fight to determine who would lead the world into the future. Apparently, that battle's about to start right now. Angels and demons crash down on the earth and start wrecking things, and in comes the horseman War to start doing his thing, which is waging war. Something's clearly wrong though, because for starters, he's the only horseman that answered the call of the seals being broken, and something keeps sapping his powers. Not to mention the fact that the humans clearly weren't ready for this fight, since the only thing they're able to do is run away and die. After cutting through hordes of angels and demons both, War comes across Abaddon, the commander of the angel army, and he's shocked to see that War's even there. He claims that the final seal was never broken, so none of the horsemen were even supposed to be there at all. But that can't be the case because War is positive that he heard the call, otherwise he never would have gone to Earth. Abaddon doesn't get to explain anything because Straga, one of Hell's top-ranking demons, kills the angel right in front of Uriel, his number 2. For some reason, she blames War for the entire battle, since him being there while the seals are intact means he went rogue and broke their truce, which would have caused the final war of the kingdoms to start early. War knows that he didn't do anything but his job, but he can't take the time to figure anything out because Straga attacks him. With his powers constantly fading, the horseman can't beat the demon, and Straga beats the crap out of him. When War wakes up, he's chained before the Charred Council, who is not happy about the fact that he broke the rules. The law said that when the 7 seals break, all 4 horsemen will be sent out to deal with whoever upset the balance. Then they'll be reforged until the next time the crap hits the fan. Since the seals weren't broken, War was not supposed to be there, so the council's pretty upset with him. But War says that he heard the call of the seals breaking, so something summoned him. The fact that he's the only horseman who went doesn't really help his case though. And the council checked. All of the seals are still intact, so it just looks like War helped the demons invade Earth and wipe out the humans. That's clearly not true since heaven and hell were already fighting when he got there, and Abaddon knew something wasn't right. But whatever he knew died with him, so it'll be kind of hard for a dead man to provide evidence that War didn't cause the end of the world. War did fight the demons and lose, but the council figures that the destroyer had just threw him out once he didn't need him anymore. Either way, they plan on punishing War for breaking the law. Of the 4 horsemen, Fury is the only one that the council isn't 100% sure will do their job, since she's a bit unpredictable and kinda violent. That's a problem when the horsemen don't have a mission, since she's not all that good at just sitting around doing nothing. But before she decides to wander off and do something random, she gets summoned to the council. When she gets there, she sees War chained up. While she's curious about why he's there, she thinks it's kind of funny that he did something stupid and got himself locked up. It stops being funny when the council says that he broke the 7th seal and started the end of the world. That doesn't make sense, but since the angels and demons are fighting on Earth, Fury figures that it's time for the horsemen to head down there and start stabbing stuff. That would be what happens under normal circumstances, but the council doesn't want to send them out until after they figure out why War betrayed them and the humans. Despite that, they do have a mission for her. Someone freed the 7 deadly sins, and they're on Earth. The balance between order and chaos is already collapsing because of what War did, so the sins need to be recaptured immediately. Death is currently missing, Strife is off on another mission, and they obviously can't send War. That means Fury has to go. It won't be the first time that she's gone up against the Sins, but the last time all 4 horsemen took them down. This time Fury will be doing it alone. She's fine with that, as long as the council makes her the leader of the horsemen once she completes the mission. They don't have a problem with that at all, so they send her off. They want a Watcher to go with her though. She doesn't like that since it means that they don't trust her, but the Watcher is more of a fangirl than a spy, so Fury lets her tag along. Before she leaves, War tells her that something isn't right because he didn't break the seal, and he thinks that someone is after them. She doesn't pay him much attention, and instead she heads down to Earth. The battle has destroyed everything as far as the eye can see, but there could still be some human survivors. Fury's not exactly concerned about them, but she doesn't get the chance to look for them even if she wanted to, because she gets attacked by the first of the 7 deadly sins. Envy. Envy is obsessed with taking everything that the humans have. Considering the way the planet looks, that's not all that much, but he still wants it. Fury doesn't care what happens to the humans at all since she doesn't like them all that much either, but she is there to deal with the sins, so she beats Envy practically to death. Her mission is to capture them, not kill them, something that the Watcher points out, but Fury hadn't forgotten. Envy was carrying around a talisman that he was using to hold some power that he stole from each of the other sins. So Fury takes it and locks Envy inside of it. She plans on using that to trap the rest of the sins once she breaks their bodies and forces their souls to leave them. It's pure luck that the first sin she came across was carrying the thing, because she had no other way of capturing the sins without it. But that's probably why the Charred Council dropped her off near Envy's location. From what the Watcher can sense, the talisman will let her know when she gets close to one of the other sins, due to the fact that it has a bit of energy from each of them stored inside. But that'll only work once she gets close, which means she has a lot of wandering around to do in a very hostile place. The Watcher thinks it'll be a good idea for Fury to try and find some allies that she can use to help make her search a little bit easier. The world is overrun by demons, and some of them are always looking for a way to increase their own power. Turning on their own for personal gain is pretty common, so it wouldn't be all that hard for the horsemen to get one of them to pass information to her. One of these opportunistic creatures, a very shady looking fellow named Vulgrim, finds her, since she's not exactly being stealthy while she's wandering around. Vulgrim describes himself as a capitalist. Pretty much anything he can do to increase the size of his wallet is fair game, and he fills his wallet with souls. Whether those souls belong to humans, angels, or demons doesn't really matter to him. He just wants a lot of them. Since Fury's job tends to cause a lot of souls to vacate their bodies, she's not against the idea of buying things from Vulgrim, especially information. Vulgrim's not the only non-hostile person that she comes across. A small group of makers have set up a place for human refugees. Their leader is Ulthane Blackhammer, and after seeing how woefully unprepared the humans were for the war that came to Earth, he decided to put his considerable strength toward protecting them. When he first saw Fury, he had thought the council had sent her there for the same reason, but she makes it known that she's only on Earth to deal with the deadly sins. So Ulthane offers to use his considerable blacksmithing skills to enhance Fury's equipment if she sends any human she sees on her travels to his sanctuary. He has a device that will teleport them straight to Haven if they touch it, so Fury takes it and agrees to help him out. It's a good thing that she decides to work with him because Ulthane knows where Wrath, another member of the Deadly Sins, is hiding out. There's a place beneath the city called the Nether where Wrath is holding up, so that's her next stop. The Nether is infested with all types of creatures, and Wrath isn't the only one of the sins that's made his home there. Sloth is there too, but Fury isn't stupid enough to try and fight them both at the same time, so she hunts down Wrath first. He's in the middle of fighting a group of angels when she sees him, and after he brutally massacres them all, Fury jumps in to put him down. Wrath is a lot stronger than Envy was, so to even the playing field, Fury summons her horse Rampage. But there's a problem. The horse shows up with a very big angel spear sticking out of his body. Seeing as how her horse is pretty much the only thing that she cares about, Fury goes to check on him. That turns out to be a mistake. Wrath takes the opportunity to impale Fury, but before she passes out, she breaks the blade off and stabs Wrath in the face. As she's fading away from her injuries, a portal opens and drags her somewhere far away from the Nether. When she wakes up, she sees a really big guy with a box chained to his back talking to an angel and a demon who've gotten tired of fighting in the never-ending war between heaven and hell. Since they're immortal, they can't exactly retire, but whoever this Lord of Hollows is, he's powerful enough to consume their souls in a way that will stop them from ever being reborn. The Hollows is a realm that's not all that pleasant, but the Lord of Hollows rules it and he knows a few things. He's pretty sure that the war that's going on is not what the Horseman thinks. The Charred Council is working on something, and they're using Fury to help push it along. Fury has a pretty one-track mind, and all she's thinking about is stopping the sin so she can prove that she's strong enough to lead the Horsemen. The Lord of Hollows doesn't think that she understands what true strength is, but he decides to help her by giving her some power from his realm. It's not out of the goodness of his heart though. He wants her to add a demon named Abraxas to her hit list. He's as much of a threat to the balance as the Sins are, and the Hollow Lord wants Fury to bring Abraxas' soul to him. She promises to think about it, but she's more interested in finding out who killed her horse. When she gets out of the Hollow, she stumbles across Avarice's horde, so she does her job and captures another Sin. Once she's added Avarice to her collection, the Lord of Hollows summons her back and gives her another tool to use before throwing her out of his realm without answering any of her questions. Since Wrath is not where she left him, Fury goes to test out her new powers on Sloth, who hasn't moved from the spot where she last saw him. That kind of fits since he's not exactly the most active member of the Sins. That doesn't mean he's going to just sit there and let Fury capture him though. But even though he fights back, she still beats him and locks him away inside of the amulet. After leaving the Nether, a church catches Fury's eye and makes her start to wonder just what made humans worship creatures from the heavens. But she doesn't get to think about that for too long because Pride shows up. She's without a doubt the strongest of the Sins, and she's disappointed that the council would send its weakest horseman after her. Fury doesn't take too kindly to the insult, so she attacks the woman, but she can't even break through a barrier. Pride promises to give Fury a chance to fight her if and only if she can beat the rest of the Sins, but she doesn't think Fury is strong enough to pull it off, so she probably won't ever see her again. Since chasing after her won't really be a good idea, Fury leaves Pride alone for the moment and starts working her way to an outpost of angels that she saw so she can ask them in a none too polite manner why one of them saw fit to murder her horse. The angels aren't all that happy to see her, and they prove it by trying to kill her. She's not really willing to let them kill her though, so she beats on them until their leader, Azrael, stops them. He had a run-in with War before, and he figured that Fury had shown up to finish the job, but she doesn't know about or care about whatever grudge the angel has with her brother. Azrael also recognizes the weapons that the Lord of Hollows gave to Fury, so if she's not there for her brother, he figures that she must be there to claim the souls of his angels for the Lord of Hollows. When Fury tells him that she's only there because his people killed her horse, he makes it pretty clear that he doesn't have the time or resources to make trouble with the horsemen. So if someone is plotting against her and her brothers, it wasn't any of his people. But since she's there, he could use her help, and he might be able to help her in return. His angels have been being killed and resurrected into undead monstrosities. The same thing has been happening to some demons, so they aren't the ones behind it. The only creature that Azrael knows of that can corrupt both angels and demons is lust. Under normal circumstances, that sin has never had that much power, but there's a rumor that an unknown demon has given lust a serious power boost. With her having the power to corrupt the minds of angels and demons, it makes it pretty difficult for any of Azrael's people to deal with her, but Fury shouldn't have a problem with it. If she handles her, she'll have made an ally out of the angel, one that'll put all of his resources into finding out who is trying to get rid of her and her family. After cutting a path through Lust's army of undead and having a run-in with Gluttony, who also seems to have more power than he should have, Fury comes face to face with Lust and starts to do what she does best. Azrael obviously didn't have the patience to sit back and let Fury deal with the sin, because he shows up to help, and is immediately corrupted and joins the fight on Lust's side. Lucky for him, the mind control ends when Fury finishes off Lust, who tries to bargain for her life by telling Fury where Envy is hiding. She didn't realize that Fury had already captured Envy, not like she would have taken the deal anyway. Azrael apologizes for making things harder, and Fury, who has been getting a bit more understanding since she's been interacting with people, forgive him. This time, this mission of hers is starting to help her realize that she can't serve the balance if her own emotions aren't balanced, and her mental state was anything but balanced before. That doesn't mean that she won't beat down people who need it, and enjoy it while she does it, but she wants to be more than a mindless savage. She just doesn't know what she actually wants to be. With another sin beaten, the Lord of Hollows summons Fury back to his realm. He obviously has something that he wants Fury to understand about what's really going on in the world, but he's not gonna outright tell her. Instead, he gives her another tool to use and sends her back to continue her mission. She finds Gluttony and attacks him, but he flees deep underwater. Breathing underwater isn't exactly a problem for her, so she dives in after him. When she finally catches up to him, he makes the mistake of showing her the remains of his last meal. It was her horse. Because of this, she makes his death a lot more painful than the others. The Lord of Hollows summons her back yet again, but he seems off this time. He gives Fury one last weapon to use and tells her that the next time they interact, only one of them will survive. She doesn't know what he means by that since she doubts he's been helping her all of this time just to try and kill her. But he did tell her that she'll find out the truth if she keeps hunting for the sins, so she heads off to hunt down Wrath so they can have their rematch. Wrath's domain is set up right next to the fortress of Abraxas, who the Lord of Hollows asked Fury to kill. Before she gets to stabbing the demon, she wants to know why the Lord of Hollows wants him dead. Abraxas is in the process of building a fortress for a very powerful demon who he thinks is strong enough to win the war and take over. He plans on being this demon's right-hand man, but the Lord of Hollows wants to stop this unnamed individual from taking over since he thinks that'll be very bad for everyone. Abraxas claims that the Hollow Lord is trying to set himself up as the god of the world, so he can end the cycle of war for good by turning all of the realms into a place like the Hollow, where even immortals can be killed permanently. Since that goes against the balance that Fury serves, Abraxas thinks that she should leave him alone and go and kill the Hollow Lord instead. But the Lord of Hollows has been helping her, and she doesn't know this guy, or the master that he serves, so she kills him and takes his soul before heading off to deal with Wrath. Wrath gets stronger the angrier and more bloodthirsty the people around him get, which is why he has so many angels and demons fighting around him all the time. Under normal circumstances, he'd be able to draw a lot of power from Fury, but she's so calm this go around that Wrath can't draw any strength from her, so he loses the fight and joins the other sins inside of the amulet. With all of the sins aside from pride being finished, Fury goes back to the Lord of Hollows to find out what his true motives are. He's about to ascend into something new, and he lets Fury know that this will be the last chance she has to kill him. She actually trusts him now, so she doesn't plan on killing him at all. Because of that, he tells her his whole story. He used to be a part of the Charred Council. He worked to maintain the balance because he believed in it, but after eons of being on the council, he realized that they never considered humans all that important to the balance, so they ignored them and focused on policing heaven and hell. They considered them to be nothing more than hairless apes, but humans were meant to be way more than that. They were supposed to be the balance between all worlds. That's what they would have evolved into if they were given the chance, but someone is trying to stop that from ever happening. That's why the apocalypse was triggered early. The council let all this happen. The Lord of Hollows is positive of that, but he doesn't have any proof, so he got ready for it on his own by collecting the souls of angels, demons, and humans. That way he could use them to speedrun humans to their true potential. He's the vessel for all of that power, and he's been building Fury up so she could be the guardian of it. Now that she knows the truth, the Lord of Hollows puts all of the power he stored into a stone sigil and vanishes, leaving the relic for Fury, who heads off to finish the last of the sins. Pride proves herself to be the strongest, but Fury has gotten way stronger than she was the last time they fought, and she comes out ahead in their battle. Before she dies, Pride confirms what the Lord of Hollows said about the council not serving the balance. In fact, they were the ones who unleashed the 7 deadly sins in the first place. Without any humans around for them to corrupt, they were never any real threat to the order of things, so the council never should have sent the horsemen after them. Fury wants Pride to tell her everything she knows about what's really going on, but before she gets the chance, the Watcher, who's been with Fury from the very beginning, reveals that she's actually the real Envy. She snatches the amulet, absorbs Pride, and gives herself the power of all of the captured sins. The Charred Council was behind their release, and they let them out because they're trying to kill all of the sins and the horsemen. Envy figured out their plan early, took the form of a Watcher, and used Fury to gather the power of the other sins for her. That way she could steal it and make herself strong enough to destroy the council, giving her free reign of the earth. She kicks Fury off of the side of the building and leaves to take on the council. Fury wakes up back in Haven with one of the humans watching over her. Since she had saved so many of them on her trip, they decided to return the favor. But she's not really happy that she got saved since she got beaten by Envy and doesn't have any way to get off of Earth to get her rematch. Ulthane had already been working on that problem. Makers make things, it's in their name, and he made a portal that will take Fury wherever she wants to go. What she wants is to go and beat Envy and make the council pay for turning on them, so that's where the portal takes her. Envy is in the middle of attacking the council when she arrives, and despite the fact that Envy is holding the power of all of the sins, Fury puts her down and seals her up too before turning her sights on the council. Envy had caught them before they had the chance to prepare, but Fury's fight gave them a chance to focus their power, and they turn it all on her. She would have died, but the artifact that the Lord of Hollows left for her is strong enough to push them back. They want it since the thing has the power to destroy them, but Fury hops back into the portal and escapes before they can take it. When she gets back to Haven, things have gotten bad. Demons are attacking the place, possibly with the guidance of the council, so she lets the Makers know that if they had a plan to save the humans, they had better do it now. Ulthane had made the portal able to go more than one place because it would have been pretty stupid not to do that. But sending the humans off to hide in an unknown world without a protector would be just as bad as leaving them to the demons. That job belongs to Fury, even though she isn't all that excited about it. So the makers hold off the demons while Fury leads the humans away. Before she leaves, she asks Ulthane to help her brother War if he gets the chance, because he'll need it to prove his innocence. He agrees, but she still doesn't feel right about leaving them to fight alone, until she realizes that one of the humans had been Strife all along. Knowing that he's fighting with the Makers, she heads off to protect the remnants of humanity until they're strong enough to change the course of the war between heaven and hell. For the universe to exist, there must be balance in all things. If there's light, there must be darkness. If there's good, there has to be evil, and so on and so forth. The Charred Council are a group that was ordered by the Creator to maintain that balance, but they failed. The balance has been broken. Earth is in ruins, and demons are setting up new kingdoms on the planet. The Council and pretty much everyone else is blaming the Horseman War for this, saying that he started the apocalypse by going to Earth when he wasn't supposed to, and now all of humanity is dead. All four horsemen, War, Fury, Strife, and Death, were supposed to go together at the right time to do battle on Earth, but none of the others were anywhere to be seen. The Horsemen are Nephilim, half angel, half demon creatures. They're the last of their kind, but there used to be a lot of them. Their race destroyed countless realms until 4 of them started to think that what they were doing may ruin the balance. So they went to the Charred Council, and in exchange for a large power boost, they became the Council's enforcers. Their first mission was to wipe out their own kind and destroy their souls so they couldn't be reborn. They did their job even though they didn't want to. Now that War's head may be on the chopping block for a crime that he didn't commit, Death has set off on a mission of his own that he hopes will save his brother's life. And that mission is to find a way to resurrect humanity. He has no idea how to do that, so he's gone to talk to the Keeper of Secrets, a man known as the Crowfather, to hopefully get the information that he needs. The Crowfather isn't exactly eager to help Death, since the last time he did a favor for the Horsemen it didn't end well. He does know that Death has come to him because of his brother's less than pleasant situation, but he doesn't care about what happens to War even though he knows that he's innocent, not like it matters. According to him, the Charred Council is going to let War rot in oblivion to hide whatever's really going on. When Death tells the Keeper of Secrets that he's not trying to convince anyone of his brother's innocence and his real goal is to undo his crime by reviving humanity, the Crowfather starts to think that Death is crazy. He doesn't think the mission is impossible though, but to succeed at it, Death will need to go to the Tree of Life. The Crowfather can open a portal to the world that houses the tree, but he will only do it if Death takes the amulet that he'd given to the man back. The amulet that just so happens to be full of all of the Nephilim souls. They've been making noise for so long that the Crowfather is starting to go crazy. The two of them had made a deal in the past where the Crowfather could learn the secrets of the amulet if he kept it, so Death doesn't want to take it back. It needs to be destroyed, but even though he was able to kill his people, Death can't bring himself to destroy their souls. While he doesn't want to destroy the amulet, he will kill the Crowfather if he won't open a portal for him. He refuses and transforms into War to fight Death. If he thought doing that would make Death hold back, he was wrong, and he gets thoroughly beaten. As he dies, he breaks the amulet and lodges the pieces into Death's chest. But with his death, a portal opens and yanks the Horseman into a world that is on the verge of being destroyed. Death wakes up to see an old Maker named Idiard standing over him. The old Maker knows where the Tree of Life is, but his entire world is being consumed by something he calls corruption, and it will eventually kill everything on the planet, including the Tree of Life. When it dies, the last of the Makers will die soon after. They don't know where this corruption comes from, but it takes over whatever it comes in contact with and twists it into a violent abomination. Something Death experiences firsthand when some of the Maker's creations attack him. He deals with them, but the old Maker lets him know that fighting the individual corrupted creatures won't do anything. There's a Maker working at a forge in the nearby settlement that may be able to help him get to the Tree of Life, if he helps her get something called the Fire of the Mountain. So he goes to see her after the old Maker lets him know that something evil and powerful has been living inside of the tree. So even if he gets through the corruption, he'll still have to deal with whatever that is if he wants to revive humanity. There are other Makers at the camp, all fighting the corruption in whatever way they can, but the one he needs is Alia. The forge she's working on isn't the one that the Makers use to create their wonders. The corruption taking over the land has shut that forge down. Seeing as how they had used that to make the cities of both heaven and hell, the thing is pretty useful to have up and running. Getting the Fire of the Mountain is the first step toward restarting it. Death isn't all that excited about wasting his time doing fetch quests for people, but the only way the Makers can help him get to the tree is with their forge, and to turn it back on he needs to restart the lava flow from the mountain. Before their forge had been turned off, the Makers had been building a giant colossus to fight the corruption. Unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to finish it. They need to make something called the Maker's Key to turn it on, and they need the forge to do it, so Death heads to the temple known as the Cauldron so he can deal with whatever's blocking the lava flow. The place is full of traps meant to keep people out, so it won't be an easy task, not like the Horseman cares. Outside of the Cauldron, Death runs into another Maker who was trying to restart the forge himself. He's in the middle of dealing with a lot of corrupted constructs, so Death helps him clear them out. Karn had planned on being the hero who restarted the forge, but he knows his own limits, so he's perfectly fine with letting Death stumble around in the Cauldron alone. The place is definitely not safe, but after making his way through the building and putting down a lot of corrupted creatures, Death releases the lava, getting the first part of the forge back up and running. Alia's happy to see the fire flowing back to the forge, but before it can be fully operational, Death has to get the Tears of the Mountain next, and that's locked away in an equally dangerous place called the Drench Fort. He goes there and he once again runs into Karn. The Drench Fort was the first place to get taken over by the corruption, so the Makers had sealed it to keep it from spreading. Karn opens the way for Death and he heads in to restore the Tears. The place is dangerous, but there's no reason the Makers couldn't restore the water flow themselves, since they're not exactly weak. Maybe they just wanted to make someone else do the job for them. Either way, Death deals with the creatures inside and restores the waters to the forge. Alia and her brother immediately get to work making the key that Death needs to restore the Guardian. As no surprise to anyone, the foundry where it's stored got overrun before they could fully finish building the thing. There is a construct in the forest that hasn't been taken over by corruption. The Maker's Key can turn it on, and it'll be able to get Death to the foundry so he can finish the Guardian and use it to clear a path to the Tree of Life. When Death wakes up the Giant Warden and lets it know what happened to the world, it's more than happy to take him to the foundry, and Karn decides to tag along since he figures that Death may need his help to get the Guardian up and running. The thing is humongous, and it's missing the 3 Heartstones that power it. They're located around the foundry, they just need to be found, so after fighting through a lot of unsavory creatures, Death and Karn get them. 2 of the stones are fine, but 1 of them is corrupted. Death thinks that the power of the 2 pure gems will counter the effects of the corrupted one, and he's completely wrong. Instead of coming to life to help, the Guardian gets corrupted and starts making its way to the Maker's camp to destroy it. By the time Death gets there, Thane has been thoroughly beaten by the corrupted Guardian, and Ideard is trying unsuccessfully to hold the thing off. There's no way for the Horseman to stop it without destroying it, so he does what he needs to. But he still needs it to get to the Tree of Life, so Ideard uses his life energy to resurrect the Guardian and remove the corruption from it. Once the Guardian is back up, it clears a path to the Tree of Life, but it dies in the process. When Death gets to the tree, he gets snatched inside of it, and he finally gets to see the source of the corruption, Absalom, the very first Nephilim. He's not exactly happy about the fact that Death turned on him and his people. When Death killed him, his soul became corrupted, and he planted himself inside of the Tree of Life so he could use the fact that the tree is connected to all worlds to spread his influence everywhere, and nothing, not the angels, demons, Nephilim, or the Charred Council can stop him. To prove his power over the tree, he uses it to send Death to the world of the dead, a place that is much easier to get to than it is to leave. When Death pops out in the kingdom of the dead, the first thing he sees is a weird goat man who is curious to find out what made one of the horsemen come there by choice. When he finds out that Death had been going to the Tree of Life, not the land of the dead, he explains to him that the tree isn't somewhere that you go to unless you're trying to use it to get somewhere else. It's like an airport that connects a lot of places, and the person who goes there is only headed there to leave. Death isn't happy about the fact that the Crowfather didn't tell him that, but it wasn't like they were friends, so he shouldn't have been surprised. However, the goat man, Ostagoth, is pretty sure that using the tree is going to help the horseman complete his mission of restoring humanity, since it can take him to the Well of Souls. That's where the dead from every world goes until it's time for them to be reincarnated. So if Death wants to restore humanity, he'll have to go there. The portal to the Well of Souls isn't one that's open to just anyone though. If Death wants to find out how to get there, he'll have to go to the Eternal Throne and talk to the Lord of Bones. If he can convince him to not take his soul for bothering him, he might help him reach his destination. The Eternal Throne isn't the easiest place to reach since it's being pulled through the air by some very large creatures. But once Death gets there, he has to deal with another problem. Anyone who wants to talk to the Lord of Bones has to get approval from his Chancellor, and he's willing to let Death get an audience with the king if he goes to the Gilded Arena and beats the champion. He's actually trying to get Death killed since he doesn't think he has what it takes to beat the champion, but the horseman isn't worried. When he gets to the arena, they make him do a bit of item gathering before he finally gets the champion into the ring, where he thoroughly pummels it and takes its skull back to the Chancellor as proof that he won. The Chancellor can't believe that he won the fight, but a deal's a deal, so he lets him see the king, who is even less happy to see the horseman. He is happy to finally know why the souls of the Nephilim had never gone through his realm though. That would have been hard for them to do since they're stuck in the amulet in Death's chest, because everything in the universe is really obsessed with the number 3. 3 of the king's top servants have left their post and gone off to do their own thing around the realm. The dead king wants Death to bring them all back to him, and if he does that, he'll tell him how to get to the Well of Souls. They're not exactly going to come willingly, but the king gives Death a tool that will force them to cooperate. All 3 of them put up quite a fight, but not enough of one to keep them from getting dragged back to their master, where he destroys them for not doing their job. He does honor his deal, and he sends Death to the person who knows how to get to the Well of Souls. He's in the City of the Dead, and he just so happens to be one of the people that Death sent there, the Crowfather. You would think that getting unalived by the horseman would have left him with a bit of a grudge, but he's perfectly fine with helping Death reach the well. Unfortunately, it isn't as simple as walking up to the door and opening it. Death needs a key that was split in half to make sure no one got it. One half was given to the angels and kept in their world, and the demons got the other half. Since it was pretty much guaranteed that they would never work together, the Well of Souls would never be reached by anyone living. The only way for Death to get there is to go back to the Tree of Life and teleport to the other worlds, a process that the Crowfather is willing to help him with. But he does let the horseman know that if he really wants to restore humanity, he will have to do what he has been trying to avoid and sacrifice the souls of the Nephilim at the well. Once the Crowfather shows the horseman how to use the tree to get to the realm of the angels, they arrive in Lost Light, one of the angels' bases that's a good distance away from heaven itself. It's also where they've put their half of the key. Even though it's not likely that any angel would work with the demons, that doesn't mean there aren't a few who would have tried to find a way to use the key for their own purposes, so it was better to keep it somewhere that no one would look. Speaking of purposes outside of the original mission, Death has finally started thinking about the fact that the Well of Souls could be used to bring back the Nephilim. That's why the information on it had been kept hidden from the horsemen so they wouldn't get any ideas. Of course, if Death brings them back, not only will war get executed, the balance will be shattered, so it's a very good chance that he won't do that. Absalom's corruption has spread even to the realm of the angels, which means Death has to put a lot of the corrupted angels down. However, some of them aren't corrupted, and they're happy to have one of the horsemen there to help deal with this problem. One of these uncorrupted angels is Nathaniel. He was a member of the Hell Guard during the Nephilim War, but now he guards Lost Light and the Archon, whose job is to record everything that he sees happening in the land of the demons, so the angels will have plenty of time to prepare a counterattack. Nathaniel had already figured out that for Death to be there, he must have come for the key, so for that he'll have to talk to the Archon. The Archon isn't willing to give up the key without getting a favor from the horsemen because no one does anything for free. Pretty much all of heaven is corrupted, and there's nothing he can do about it since some of their most powerful relics got lost when the war on Earth started. If he had the Rod of Azrael, he could undo the corruption, but it's on Earth, and any angel who goes there can never go back to the White City. If Death goes to Earth and gets it, then the Archon will clear a path to the Citadel where the key is. There are only a few ways to get to Earth, since the Charred Council destroyed most of the paths to keep everyone from going there and messing up the balance. But the Archon has a portal, and he uses it to send Death there. The Earth is in bad shape. The humans that are left have been turned into undead monstrosities, and Uriel and the Hellguard are there fighting them. Demons are there fighting too, and when Death sees Uriel about to get killed, he decides to help her and the other angels push the creatures back. Uriel's grateful for Death's help, but she really wants to kill him because of what war did to Earth. Since Death risked himself to save her, she decides not to blame him for what she thinks his brother did. That's a good thing since she knows what happened to the rod. The Archon Hestus had brought it to Earth so he could use it on the demons, but he died and the rod was broken. The leader of the demon army, a being called the Destroyer, took the pieces and started using them to make his troops stronger. It can be put back together, but Death will have to fight through hordes of creatures to get to the pieces. Uriel can't spare any of her own troops for the hunt, so Death will have to go alone. He's perfectly fine with doing that, so after adding Uriel's gun to his arsenal of weapons, the horseman heads off to track down the pieces of the staff. After fighting through thousands of creatures, Death gets his hands on all 3 of the pieces, and the staff merges, restoring itself to full power. Uriel's got half a mind to try and convince Death to use the staff to help fight the Destroyer, but she's got a feeling that won't end well, so she decides against it. The horseman would have been willing to do it regardless, if he didn't need to save his brother. Yura has a lot of respect for Death, but she lets him know that if she ever sees his brother, she will make him pay for what he did to Earth since she thinks he's responsible for it. She honestly doesn't think she'll live long enough to see that threat through, since she has nowhere to retreat to, and it's only a matter of time before the demons wipe the Hellguard out. With the rod in hand, Death goes back to the Archon, who uses it to clear a path to the Citadel like he said he would. He even calls a griffin for Death to ride and tells him to talk to the scribe in the Citadel. He'll be able to point Death in the right direction. The scribe is corrupted, so he attacks Death, but after the horseman smacks him around a bit, he's freed from the corruption and more than willing to tell him what happened to the key. It turns out that when the corruption hit the Citadel, angels started fighting each other. The Archon, the one who Death just gave the very powerful rod to, was the first one to get corrupted, and he started the spread and the fighting in the Citadel while claiming that he was the only one that wasn't corrupted. When he left and went to the Crystal Spire, he took the key with him, so Death goes to get it back. He doesn't give it up willingly, so Death does what he's known for and takes it from his dead body, before heading back to the tree to go and get the other key from the realm of the demons. The corruption hit their realm too, but the key is being held by a very powerful demon who probably had too much strength to be corrupted, and will likely not be willing to hand over his key to the horseman. The demon who has it is Samael, and he keeps it in his castle called the Black Stone, along with a lot of other valuable artifacts. Ostagoth had come there to trade with him, but he thinks that something must have happened to Samael because the demon would have never let his realm deteriorate the way that it has. When Death makes it to Samael's throne, he figures out why the realm was allowed to fall to the corruption. Samael's not there, and Lilith, the woman who created Absalom by merging an angel and a demon, is running things. She thinks that the reason Death didn't destroy the souls of his brethren is because he was planning on reviving them all along. She's willing to help him reach the Well of Souls, since she thinks he'll revive the Nephilim with it, but Samael's not there, and the key is missing. Lilith has a way around that little inconvenience though. She gives Death the ability to go back in time to before Samael's fortress fell. That way he can see if he can find the key. The problem with that is with him going back to before the fortress fell, Samael is there, and since he's one of the most powerful demons around, he not only instantly recognizes that Death is from the future, he knows that the Charred Council didn't send him. When the horseman asks him for the key, Samael says that he can have it if he's strong enough to take it. He's not nearly strong enough to kill the demon, but when he manages to cut Samael, the demon gives the horseman the key just because he's curious to see what happens when he gets to the well and has to fight Absalom. With both pieces of the key, Death heads into the tree to face the first Nephilim and decide whether he will restore humanity or the Nephilim. Just like he did during the Nephilim War, Death defeats Absalom, and by killing him, he not only stops the spread of the corruption, but he clears his path to the well. The Crowfather lets him know that if he revives the humans, it will destroy the Nephilim souls permanently. To save War, he's okay with that, so Death dives into the well and destroys the souls of his people to start the process of resurrecting humanity, to undo the crime that his brother was accused of. He feels that he deserves a chance to clear his name and punish the person who set him up though. The council thinks that's pointless since War is pretty weak after he practically died. But he points out that if he gets killed by the demons, then they'll have done what the council wanted anyway. That makes sense, so they agree to send him back to Earth, but he won't be going around unsupervised. He gets bonded to a watcher who has the power to kill War if he does anything crazy. Then the horseman reclaims his giant sword and gets ready to head back to Earth. Before he leaves, the council lets him know that some of the demons who have taken over Earth will be easier to buy off than to kill, and for that he'll need souls. One of these is a demon named Vulgrim, and even though the council normally wouldn't condone making deals with demons, things have changed since the truce was broken. Some demons have lost their standing with the Destroyer, and they're looking for strong allies. Vulgrim is one of those. The whole conversation makes War wonder just how much time has passed since the battle. Instead of answering his question, the council sends him to Earth, which has changed a whole lot in the days since he was last there. Humans are all completely gone, but that doesn't stop their corpses from getting up and trying to murder War. Demons have taken over the world, built their own buildings, carved out their own domains and such. It's been 100 years since that day, and during the time their entire third kingdom was wiped out. It doesn't take all that long to find Vulgrim. Well, he finds War since the horseman is running around like a wrecking ball. He's happy to see that the council finally took him seriously and decided to work with him, in exchange for souls of course, because no one works for free. War throws the creepy demon some souls, and he points the horseman to the place where he can find the Destroyer. The thing is in the giant tower that the horseman can see from pretty much anywhere. But if he just tries to charge in as weak as he is, he'll be dead in seconds. if he can even make it through the magic that's shielding the place. Vulgrim doesn't know how to get there, but a demon who was nearly the equal of Lucifer, the king of hell, may know a way. The two of them had a falling out, and Samael's been locked up, which likely means that if War wants his help, he'll probably have to free the demon. The enemy of your enemy is not necessarily a friend, but he is someone that you can do business with, so War heads to the demon's prison. Samael's prison isn't exactly unguarded, and the demon guarding it lets War know that the destroyer knows he's coming, and he's getting ready for him. War doesn't care. He kills the general guarding the prison and frees Samael. The demon doesn't even remotely look like someone that is trustworthy or weak, so War is probably making a big mistake by letting him out. But since he isn't there to fight him, he seems like he may be willing to talk. The Destroyer's Spire isn't something that anyone can just break into, but there is a way to get there. The tower is guarded by 4 of his warriors, the Chosen. If War brings their hearts to Samael, he'll be able to help get the horsemen into the tower. He has his own reasons for helping him, and he's not going to explain them. The first Chosen is Tiamat, the Bat Queen, and she's made her home in the Twilight Citadel. Her area can't be reached on land, so War will have to find a way to get there. While he's making his way to Tiamat's home, he sees a very large squad of angels led by Uriel, and they're searching for him. Since she thinks he's responsible for Abaddon's death, she wants him dead. She sends the whole Hellguard after him, and the horseman proceeds to steal one of their griffins and kill them while he flies to the Citadel. Tiamat doesn't take kindly to him flying into her lands, and she attacks the griffin. War does the smart thing and jumps off of it, letting the 2 flying monsters fight while he makes his way through the castle. He has to fight some odd critters as he cuts a path to Tiamat, but when he reaches the Bat Queen, he finds her right when she finishes off the griffin. After that, War proceeds to rip her wings off. She of course tries to beg for her life, but War does what he came there for and relieves her of her heart. The thing is full of power, which would explain why Samael wants it. It also means that giving it to him may not be the best idea, but a deal's a deal, so using Vulgrim's teleportation paths, War makes it back to Samael. He lets War know that the second Chosen, called Griever, moves around in the tunnels underneath the city, but War won't be able to get there until after he deals with Ulthane, a member of a race of old ones which wasn't a part of the deal, something the Watcher points out. While the Watcher can talk to War any way he wants, the thing has no power over Samael, something he proves by slapping the crap out of him. Ulthane is not an ally of the Destroyer, but the only way to Griever is to deal with the Black Hammer. And he may not exactly be talkative. Granted, in War's current state, he's not strong enough to fight him either because the Watcher is blocking some of his powers. Samael puts an end to that and gives War a chance to kill the thing without the council being able to stop him. He doesn't kill him, but he takes the opportunity to punch the annoying psycho critter in the face. Then he heads off to find Ulthane. War finds Ulthane's hammer before he sees the old one, and the thing is so big and heavy that he can't even lift it. Ulthane doesn't like people touching his stuff, and that leads to a fight. That fight gets interrupted when Uriel and the Hellsguard show up. She's waited 100 years to get her hands on War, and she wants to bring him to the White City to stand trial, but the city is sealed until the Destroyer is dealt with, so she decides to sentence him to death here and now. But Ulthane's not letting anyone interrupt his fight with the horsemen since he was having fun, and he's definitely not letting what he calls pigeons interrupt it. The angels won't back down, so Ulthane decides to have a different contest with the horsemen. The winner is the one who can kill the most angels. The fact that they made a game out of fighting off an army is a sign that the angels are pretty trash, and after putting down a metric ton of them, they make it to Ulthane's forge only to get attacked by Uriel. War knocks her out and the angels carry her off, finally stopping their attack. Ulthane's not exactly convinced that the horseman is actually one of the horsemen, but he's willing to open the way to Griever's lair for him. He had sealed it because he got tired of Griever's minions popping up in his yard. If War makes it back, then he'll believe he's legit and they'll talk. War gets attacked by Griever as soon as he steps into the thing's lair, but it retreats before he can do too much damage to it. When he finally catches back up to the demon, he proceeds to beat it to death with a train car because why not? Then he leaves to go back to Samael. When he makes it back to Ulthane, having obviously proven himself to be who he said he was, he wants to know why Ulthane's hiding out alone like a hermit. The big guy doesn't want to talk about that, but he was nice enough to make a gun for War that he names Mercy, which is only a good name for it if you'd rather get done in by that than War's giant sword. Samael somehow saw the whole incident with Ulthane, which says more about the shoddiness of his prison than his ability to see things that he shouldn't. He also saw Uriel, who he knows hates War because she liked Abaddon a little more than was professional. and she and all of the Hellguard will keep going after whoever they think is responsible for his death. And that's war until he proves otherwise. Samael knows that Straga killed Abaddon, and that the demon is the strongest of the chosen. He gets his power from the spire that War is trying to get to, so that means he'll come face to face with him again soon. But that's only after War gets the other two hearts. The next one is from Stygian, the king of the giant worms that inhabit the Ashlands. The place is covered in the ashes of the dead, and that makes the worms grow very, very big. But some demons have started capturing the things for sport, then they grab other creatures and force them to fight in an arena. The demons are trying to capture Stygian himself, but they don't know that it has one of the hearts of the chosen in it, since they have access to the chronospheres, devices made by the old ones that let people manipulate time a little bit. They might be able to capture the worm. Samael shows War how to use them so he can get past the worms, and he heads off to deal with Stygian and get the third heart. The worms are even bigger than Samael said, which means Stygian will be even bigger, but before he can worry about that, War has to find him. That will be kind of rough since War wanders right into the demon's arena. He does his whole beat the crap out of people thing, but the demons seem to have endless numbers. When they realize he's never going to get tired, they send out their champion, who just so happens to have claimed War's horse during the 100 years he was gone. War finishes him off and reclaims his mount, which he uses to escape the arena and track down Stygian. The demons had actually captured the worm, but they couldn't keep him contained for long since he's like 10 times the size of the other worms. But none of them had the power of a horseman, so after a lot of bullets and sword swipes, War brings down Stygian from the inside and retrieves the third heart. Samael, of course, eats it and sends War back to the Ashlands where Silitha, the Spider Queen, has her lair. He says that when War comes close to her palace, she'll find him, and as soon as he does, the Spider Queen snatches him and he wakes up cocooned inside of her palace, exactly where he wanted to be. After putting down all of Silitha's children, War comes face to face with the Spider Queen herself. She knows that War is there for her heart, but she's pretty sure that he doesn't understand that their hearts all held Samael's power, and he definitely doesn't know how they ended up with them. The Chosen were never set to guard the tower. Their whole purpose was to keep Samael from getting his full power back. If War does bring her heart to the demon, he'll become a bigger threat than all four of the Chosen combined. That's probably true, but War doesn't exactly care. He needs her heart, and he's ready to take it. She's not exactly eager to give it up since she kinda needs it to stay alive, but that doesn't stop War from taking it from her. He's not happy that Samael lied about the Chosen not guarding the tower, but War still gives him the heart. When he eats it, he's finally back at full power, which he points out means he can kill War pretty easily if he decides to. But he has a code of his own, and he made a deal with the horseman so he opens a portal to the tower. But he still won't tell War why he went against the destroyer, mainly because he figures that the horseman will understand when he reaches the end of his journey. The portal takes him to the tower, and the first thing he sees is the angel of death Azrael, who's being held prisoner there. When he realizes that War is not there to kill him, he decides to get the horseman's help. The tower is linked to the Well of Souls, which is what the destroyer is drawing his power from. The thing is full of millions of souls, all corrupted and being used to power the destroyer's army. Azrael is the keeper of the well, and since the destroyer wanted it, he sent Straga after him. Just like he beat War, he beat Azrael and forced him to give access to the well. If War frees him, it'll let him cut off their link to the well. Then he'll show War where Straga is so he can finally finish him off. After going through what were the most annoying puzzles in the game and fighting some equally annoying enemies, War breaks Azrael free, and he finds out some very interesting information. Azrael knows exactly why the war started early and why the humans were wiped out. Something wasn't right in the universe, and a few people actually saw it, but the Charred Council ignored it, so Abaddon wanted to do something about it. But just attacking the Dark Kingdom outright would have violated the treaty, so he couldn't do that. Eventually, Abaddon thought that the evil that was being allowed to fester because of the Council's rules would destroy heaven, and even though the Creator himself saw the Council's treaty as the best way to keep balance, Abaddon thought he was wrong. So he figured that once the seals were broken, Hell would send out his chosen to prepare for battle. Abaddon wanted to use that moment to wipe them all out at once. The problem was that the humans weren't nearly ready for that type of battle, and they would definitely be wiped out if the war started. But Abaddon was confident that they could wipe out the chosen before the war ever began. Azrael warned him that even if they win the war, the council would come after them for breaking the covenant. But if the seals were all whole by the time the council showed up, Abaddon would be able to blame the demons for starting the war early and breaking the pact since they'll have showed up first. And since the demons aren't exactly trustworthy, the council would believe the angels over them. So they'll break the seals, reforge them, kill the chosen, and blame it all on the demons. and they had Ulthane there to make a sword that could do the job. But they only broke 6 of the seals. Abaddon kept the 7th himself, which is how he knew that it hadn't been broken and war should have never shown up. They didn't want the 4 horsemen involved, which still doesn't explain why War heard the call, but his coming caused him to get blamed for what they did, which is why he's rightfully pissed. The Watcher wants him to execute the angel for treason, but since he's heard that War is innocent, everything should be cleared up, and War is not executing anyone. But the Watcher won't let him stop until he's dealt with the Destroyer, and he uses very unpleasant methods to make him do so. That also means he can't kill Azrael until he's dealt with Straga, since he needs his help to get to the demon and to get out of the tower once he's dealt with. The tower and Straga are linked, so when Straga dies, the tower will seal War inside. Unless, of course, Azrael teleports him out. So after going through a lot of crap, War finally gets to face Straga again, and he makes sure that the demon won't get up this time. The tower starts to collapse, but true to his word, Azrael teleports the horseman away and tells him what happened after Abaddon died. The angel came to him, not nearly as dead as he should have been, so Azrael brought him to the same place that he just took the horseman to, Eden. The Watcher didn't know that Eden even existed anymore, but Abaddon was there when it was destroyed after the first ones were cast out. He didn't want to let such an important place just wither away, so he hid it, along with the Tree of Knowledge. Abaddon went to the tree, and if War wants to beat the Destroyer, he'll have to visit the tree to find a way to do it. Azrael's never used it, and he doesn't plan on it. Each person who visits it gets a different gift, but he doesn't know what Abaddon's gift was, nor does he know what War's will be. Some people see visions, others just explode, so anything can happen when he gets there. Either way, it'll be interesting. The way to the tree isn't open to creatures of darkness, so War has to purge the darkness from within himself before he can move forward. Once he's done it, the path opens, but the Watcher can't go with him since the place will kill him if he tries, so War heads to the tree alone. It shows him what really happened to Abaddon. His plan had been figured out by the King of Hell, and he had capitalized on it, so when Abaddon died, he made him an offer. Once the council finds out what he's done, his end would have been bad, so to save himself, he was given the option to be a slave for heaven, or rule in hell as the Destroyer. He picked the latter, then he went back to Azrael and got him to take him to Eden. But there was more. War saw the charred council. They had learned what Abaddon had done long before they released War. But with the seals repaired, they didn't have proof. They had to figure out how to get it, because if people started to find ways to bypass the council's authority, they'd end up losing power. They couldn't just send the 4 horsemen after him because it would just look like they assassinated the angel. Not to mention they'd really lose power if the horsemen refused to go after him without proof of his treachery. So they decided to send War since he wanted revenge for what had happened to him. In other words, they knew he was innocent before they ever sent him on the mission. Abaddon still has the 7 seals, so the other horsemen won't be able to be called. Heaven is closed, Earth is destroyed, so for all intents and purposes, Hell is about to win the war, unless War kills the Destroyer. The last thing the tree shows the horsemen is Uriel and the Hell's Guard attacking Abaddon and getting beaten, before War is impaled on the sword that had broken the seals. It's a weapon that's been broken, but the tree, as a last gift, gives War the hilt of the blade. When he gets back, War tells Azrael and the Watcher everything he saw except for the part about the Watcher killing him and grabbing the last seal. The fact that the sword that had broken the seals would be able to kill the Destroyer makes sense, but Abaddon had the blade destroyed right after the seals were broken, and its pieces were scattered across the Shadow Realm. Since there's nothing left to do but hunt them down, War goes on the world's worst fetch quest to retrieve the pieces and get Ulthane to reforge the weapon. While he's out hunting, Uriel finds him and challenges him to a one-on-one fight to the death, all to get revenge for Abaddon. War beats her, but he doesn't choose to finish her off at that moment, so technically their death match isn't over. It won't be until one of them kills the other, but War figures that it's important to let her know that Abaddon became the Destroyer. He hid the truth from her since she had pledged to follow Abaddon to Hell, and once he got tricked into becoming Hell's chief soldier, that oath would have forced her to either follow him or try to kill him. Both would have ended badly for her, and Abaddon didn't want that. Even with that knowledge, there's no way to cancel the death match that she and War agreed to, so one of them will have to kill the other. But that'll have to wait, because she heads off to gather her troops and attack Abaddon, while Ulthane reforges the Armageddon blade. With the weapon restored, Azrael sends War to where Uriel is fighting, and he gets there in time to see the Destroyer holding her limp body. The Destroyer doesn't really have any real memories of even being Abaddon, so he had no feelings for Uriel. He does offer War a chance to join him since the council used him, and both heaven and hell are hunting for him. But unlike Abaddon, War is perfectly fine with being hunted by everyone if it means restoring the balance, and he gets to work fighting the Destroyer. With the Armageddon Blade, War is able to bring down Abaddon and reclaim the final seal, but as soon as he gets it, the Watcher attacks him. The Council had never planned on letting War roam free once his mission was complete, especially since him knowing that they used him to break their own rules would likely have him come after them. But the only way they could lock him away again is if the 7th seal isn't broken, so the Watcher takes it. However, what the Watcher hadn't counted on was Uriel. She takes the Armageddon Blade and stabs War in the back with it, fulfilling the death oath that she had given to him. Then she uses the sword to break the 7th seal. That unbinds War's powers, and he finally gets to do what he wanted to do for quite a while, and that's kill the Watcher. Uriel realizes that War knew what was going to happen there, which is why he hadn't killed her. But even though he needed her to free him from the Watcher, his main goal in keeping her alive was that he didn't want Heaven to lose a champion who was so devoted to protecting the balance. She respects him for that, but with what War has done by killing the Watcher and setting himself up to go against the Council, she may end up having to fight him in the future. In other words, the demons, angels, and the Council will all be after him. He's about to be fighting a war against everyone, but he won't be doing it alone. The last seal was finally broken, which means the other 3 horsemen are on their way, and things are about to get very, very interesting. This concludes the story of Darksiders. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, donate if you can, and I'll see you all in the next one.